tiny room of adults and you will hear it. The dreams, the plans, the lives they're going to build, the businesses they're going to start, the books they're going to write, the bodies they're going to have, the relationships they're going to find. The talking is constant. The conviction is real. The wanting is genuine. And here's the truth. Most of those people will never build any of it. Not because the dreams were bad, not because they didn't want it. They will not build the life they talk about because they've confused the talking with the building. And the confusion has been running for so long that they can't tell the difference anymore. You see, there is a specific gap between the version of you who describes the life you want and the version of you who actually builds it. The gap is not desire. Both versions want it. The gap is not intelligence. Both versions are smart. The gap is something quieter, less glamorous, less talked about. And almost nobody knows where the gap actually lives, which is why almost nobody closes it. Today, I want to push back on the comforting assumption that wanting the life and talking about the life is somehow close to building it. It isn't. It's not even in the same room. And the people who actually build the lives you've been describing to your friends for years are doing something different, quietly, daily, without much fanfare, that you've been substituting for years with something that felt like progress but produced nothing. Listen, 5 things you must understand about this. By the end, you'll see why most people will never build their dream life. And you'll see exactly what would be required starting tomorrow to be one of the few who do. Now, before we get into the 5 angles, you have to understand what the talking about pattern has been costing you. Because most people who talk about their dreams don't see the talking as costly. They see it as motivation. They see it as accountability. They see it as keeping the dream alive. The talking in their head is a positive force. Here's the truth. The talking isn't neutral. Every time you describe the life you're going to build, your brain receives a small reward. The reward feels like progress. The brain registers something, that you're the kind of person who has this dream, who is committed to it, who is on the path. The registering substitutes neurologically for some of the satisfaction you would have gotten from actually doing the work. You see, this is well documented. The same psychological reward that would have come from real progress comes from the announcement of intention. Your brain treats them as similar. And once it has gotten some of the reward from the talking, it has less drive to pursue the doing. The motivation that should have powered the actual work has been spent on the conversation about the work and the talking compounds. Every year you spend describing the life you're going to build is a year you haven't built it, while you've been receiving the small rewards of describing it. The pattern reinforces itself. The describing becomes the substitute. The dream stays as a dream because the dreaming feels like enough to satisfy the part of you that needed the satisfaction. You must reckon with this clearly. The cost of years of talking about your dream isn't just the time lost. It's the dream itself, slowly going stale because the doing never started. By the time you're 40, the dream you've been talking about since you were 25 has either been built or quietly abandoned. There's no third option. The talking doesn't preserve the dream indefinitely. It allows the dream to fade while you tell yourself you're still committed to it. And here's what most people in their 40s realize looking back. The dreams they talked about for 15 or 20 years were almost all reachable if they had spent half the time building that they spent describing. The describing didn't preserve the dream. The describing replaced the building. And by the time they understood the substitution, the years were gone. And the dream was a memory of who they once said they were going to become. 5 angles, all about why the talking doesn't build and what would actually be required to close the gap. By the end, you'll know which side of the gap you have been living on, and you'll have a clear choice about which side you want to live on from here. The first angle to understand is the most basic and the most overlooked. Most people who talk about their dream life genuinely want it. The desire is real. They're not faking. They're not pretending. They do want to write the book, start the business, get fit, find the partner, change careers, build the thing. The wanting is sincere. And the wanting produces nothing, because wanting isn't the same as building. They are 2 completely different mental and physical activities, and they don't naturally lead into each other. You can want something for decades without ever taking a single concrete step toward it. The wanting will keep coming. The building won't start unless you do something different from what the wanting feels like. Here's the truth. The path from wanting to building isn't automatic. It requires a specific shift that almost nobody learns. The wanting tells you to keep thinking about the thing, keep talking about it, keep imagining it, keep dreaming about it. The building requires you to stop most of that and just do small actions in the direction of the thing every day for years. You see, this is why so many people who clearly want something never build it. They take the wanting as evidence that they're on the path. They aren't. They're on the road of wanting. The road of building is a completely different road. And the wanting road never converges with the building road, no matter how long you stay on it. The fix is to recognize that wanting and building are different activities, and to start the building, even when the wanting tells you you're not ready. You're never going to be ready. The wanting will keep telling you you need more preparation, more research, more clarity, more motivation. None of that is required. What's required is to start the small daily action that constitutes the actual building. You can want and build simultaneously. The wanting will probably continue. You don't have to suppress it. But you stop treating the wanting as progress. The wanting is just a feeling. The building is the work. And the work has to start, even when the wanting says you're not ready to start. Because waiting until the wanting feels complete is waiting for something that doesn't arrive. You must accept that wanting isn't building, and that the gap between them is yours to close. Nobody else can close it for you. You cannot delegate this work. The wanting won't, on its own, transform into building. You have to consciously redirect energy from the wanting activities, the thinking, the talking, the dreaming, into the building activities. The redirection is the work. The work has to be done. And you have to do the work every single day, regardless of how the wanting feels in any given moment. The second angle is more specific. The talking about your dream produces a neurological reward that crowds out the motivation for actually building it. This isn't a moral failing. It is how the human brain works. And the people who build the lives they want have figured out, intuitively or deliberately, that talking about the life is the enemy of building it. You see, when you tell somebody about the business you're going to start, your brain releases a small dose of reward chemistry, the same chemistry that would have come from making real progress. Your brain doesn't always distinguish between the announcement of intention and the realization of intention. Both feel like small accomplishments. Both produce a small dose of satisfaction. Here's the truth. The dose is small, but persistent. Every conversation where you describe the business is another small dose. Every social setting where you mention the plan is another. Over years, you've been receiving substantial reward chemistry from talking about something you haven't built. And the reward has been doing what reward always does. It has been training your brain to keep doing what produced it. What produced it was the talking. So your brain keeps directing you toward more talking. The building, on the other hand, produces no reward in the short term. The first 6 months of building any meaningful thing produce almost nothing visible. Your brain, comparing the immediate reward of talking with the deferred reward of building, naturally chooses talking. And so you talk. And the years go by, and you've talked enormously, and you've built almost nothing. The fix is to drop the talking about the thing, almost entirely, until the thing is substantially built. This is one of the hardest disciplines in adult life, because the talking is what feels like motivation. The talking is what feels like commitment. Cutting the talking feels like cutting the dream itself. It isn't. It is cutting the substitute. You cannot let go of the dream. The dream is intact. The substitute has been preventing it from becoming real. You got to keep the dream private, mostly. One trusted person, maybe. Not your wider social circle. Not the people you want to impress. Not the regular conversations at parties and dinners. The dream lives quietly in the background of your life, while the daily building happens with no fanfare and no announcements. After years of building, when the thing actually exists, you can start talking about it. By then, the talking can't undo the doing, because the doing has already produced something real. This is a brutal practice for most people because the talking has been one of their primary pleasures. Cutting it requires accepting that the pleasure was costing them the very thing they were talking about. The cost was hidden. The cost was real. And paying it by going quiet about the dream and starting the daily work is what produces the few people who actually build what most people only describe. The third angle becomes clear when you look at the people who have actually built the lives that most people only describe. They don't talk about their lives the same way the talkers do. The talking is different. The energy around the topic is different. And once you've noticed the difference, you can't unsee it. You see, the talkers describe their dreams with intensity. They get animated. They light up. They want you to know how important this is to them, how much they want it, how committed they are. The talking is performative, partly for you, partly for themselves. It functions to keep the identity alive that they are the kind of person who has this dream. But the builders are noticeably calmer about their projects. They might mention what they're working on, almost as a side note with little emphasis. They don't perform the wanting. They don't seem to need you to be impressed by the dream. They just describe what they're currently doing briefly and then go back to doing it. The energy is different because the relationship to the work is different. Here's the truth. The builders have a quiet relationship with their work because the work is happening. They don't need to talk it up. They don't need to convince themselves it matters. The daily evidence of progress provides whatever reassurance they need. So the talking, when it happens at all, is a small report on something real, not a performance of something imagined. But the talkers need the talking to keep the dream alive. Without the talking, the dream would have no daily evidence to support it. So the talking has to do all the work of keeping the dream feeling real when no actual building is happening underneath. That's why it's so animated. That's why it's so intense. The intensity has to compensate for the absence of real progress. You can use this observation as a diagnostic. Listen to how you talk about your dreams. If your talking has the animated, intense, performative quality of somebody who needs the conversation to keep the dream alive, that's information. The talking is doing the work that should be done by building. The performance is the substitute, and the substitution is what's preventing the actual life from being built. The shift is gradual. As you start actually building, the talking naturally quiets. You don't need to push it down. The animation fades because the work itself is providing the daily reassurance that used to come from the conversations. You become quieter about the dream because you're busy doing the dream. And the people around you who used to hear you describe the future business start hearing you mention what you're doing this week. The talking has changed because the relationship to the work has changed. The fourth angle is the one that matters most because it points at what actually closes the gap between talking and building. The gap is not closed by motivation. It is not closed by clarity. It is not closed by passion. The gap is closed by tolerance for unglamorous, repetitive, often boring daily work. And the people who can tolerate that work for years are the people who eventually build the lives the rest of us only describe. You see, every meaningful dream has an unglamorous reality behind it. The novel is daily pages, most of which are bad. The business is daily emails, calls, and small decisions, most of which feel unimpressive. The body is daily training and food choices, most of which are tedious. The relationship is daily showing up, listening, attending, much of which is repetitive. The dream is the result. The daily work is the actual building. And the daily work isn't as exciting as the talking suggests it should be. Let me tell you about a man I once knew. He had been talking about writing a novel for 15 years by the time we met. He was 38 years old. His friends knew about the novel. He referenced it at parties. He had concepts. He had outlines. He had fragments. What he did not have was a finished novel. He did not have a draft. He did not even have a substantial body of writing. But he talked about the novel constantly, with excitement, with conviction, with a sense that any day now, the writing would really get going. And so the years had passed, 15 of them, with the novel always about to start. He happened to attend a writer's workshop. There, he met another man, roughly his age, who had just published his second novel. He cornered the published writer at a coffee break. He asked the obvious question, "How did you do it?" The published writer thought for a moment. Then he gave an answer that almost broke our talker. He said, "I wrote 500 words a day for 3 years on the first book. It was almost always bad. I edited it 80 times. The work was tedious. Nothing about it felt like the novel writing life I had imagined when I was younger. I just kept doing 500 words a day. After 3 years, I had a finished, edited, publishable book. The second one took 2 years, same method. 500 words a day, no drama, no magic, just the daily work." The talker was quiet for a long time. He had been imagining the novel writing life as something glamorous, some mix of inspiration and craft and identity and ritual. He had been waiting for that life to begin. The published writer's version was something completely different, a daily grind of mostly bad pages, repeated for years, with almost nothing about it that felt like the imagined life of a novelist. And in that moment, the talker understood what 15 years of talking had been preventing him from seeing. The gap between him and the published writer was not desire. He had wanted it as much as anyone. The gap was not talent. He could write. The gap was tolerance for the unglamorous daily work. He had been unwilling to do 500 words of mostly bad writing every day. He had wanted to write only when it felt inspired, only when it felt like the novel writing life he had imagined. And so he had written almost nothing in 15 years. He started his 500 words a day, 2 days after that conversation. Most days the writing was bad. Some days it was terrible. He kept going. 2 years later, his first novel was done. The talking, which had filled 15 years, was finally less than the doing. The doing had taken 2 years. The talking had taken 15. He told me when the novel was published, every single day of those 2 years was tedious. Every single day, the writing was harder than the talking had ever been. But every single day produced something. The talking, for 15 years, had produced nothing. 2 years of unglamorous daily writing had produced a real book. The ratio was clear. That ratio is more or less universal. The talkers spend many years on the talking. The builders spend a few years on the building. The gap is the tolerance for unglamorous work, sustained daily for the years it takes. And that tolerance, not desire, not talent, not motivation, is what separates the people who build their lives from the people who only describe them. The fifth angle is the one you can apply to your own life today with brutal honesty. At any given period of your life, you are either currently building or currently talking. There is no middle category. The preparing to build or almost ready to build or about to build categories all collapse under examination into either talking or building. And the question of which one you are doing right now is the only honest question to ask. You see, most people prefer to live in the middle category. They feel like they're between the talking and the building. Not actively building yet, but not just talking either. Researching, planning, preparing, gathering inputs, waiting for the right moment. All of these feel like a third option that doesn't require admitting they're not building. Here's the truth. The third option is mostly talking with extra steps. Researching the business isn't building the business. Planning the novel isn't writing the novel. Preparing to start training isn't training. The activities feel like progress but produce nothing. They are part of the talking category, just with a more elaborate disguise. The honest question is, what does the actual building look like, and am I doing it daily? For the novel, the actual building is words on the page, daily. For the business, the actual building is customers, sales, products shipped, daily. For the body, the actual building is workouts, food choices, sleep, daily. If you can name the daily action that constitutes building, and you are not doing it daily, you are talking. The talking might be sophisticated, the activity might be elaborate, but if it isn't the actual building, it's talking. You must apply this test ruthlessly to your own life. You must pick the dream you've been describing. Identify what the actual daily building would look like. Then ask, am I doing that daily? If the answer is no, you are not building. You are talking. The talking might be impressive. The talking might feel committed. The talking might involve research and planning and conversations, but it is still not building. The good news is that the diagnosis points directly at the fix. If you are currently talking, you start building today with the smallest possible version of the actual daily building action. 500 words, 1 sales call, 1 workout. Whatever the irreducible daily building action is, you do it today, and then again tomorrow. You got to do it again the day after. You don't have to build perfectly. You just have to start being in the building category instead of the talking category. The moment you do the first day's actual building action, you have moved from one side of the gap to the other. The talking version of you has stopped being who you are. The building version has begun. And once that shift is made, the years of building start producing what the years of talking never could. So here is the inversion you must make. Stop assuming that wanting the life and talking about the life is meaningfully different from sitting on your couch. It isn't. The wanting and the talking produce no actual results in the world. They produce internal reward, which feels like progress, while quietly preventing the real progress that would have come from actual building. The fix has three parts. You must first go quiet about the dream, almost entirely with one trusted person at most. Not your social circle, not the parties and dinners, not the casual conversations where you used to describe the future business, the planned book, the dream relationship. The dream becomes private. The daily building happens without commentary. You must, second, identify the actual daily building action. For your specific dream, what is the smallest, most repeatable thing that, done every day, would constitute real building? 500 words for the novel, 1 outreach for the business, 30 minutes of training, 1 small concrete daily action, identified precisely, that constitutes the actual building rather than preparation for building. You must, third, do the action every single day, regardless of how it feels. Not when you're inspired, not when conditions are perfect, not when you have time. Every day. The tedium is the point. The unglamorous repetition is what produces the result. The work is mostly bad. The work continues anyway. The daily action, sustained for years, eventually produces what the talking never could. But here's the truth. The first 6 months of doing the actual building will produce almost nothing visible. You will be tempted to start talking about it, to get the reward chemistry that the talking used to give you. Resist. Keep building. Keep quiet. Trust that the daily action is doing the work, even when the work isn't visible. I am telling you, around year 2, things start to become visible. The novel has a substantial draft. The business has its first real customers. The body has changed. The relationships have deepened. The visible progress validates what was happening in the invisible months. You're now able to talk about it because there's something real to talk about. And the talking, when it finally happens, is different. It's the calm description of work in progress, not the animated performance of a dream. It has the energy of the builders, not the talkers. Because that's what you've become, somebody who builds, not somebody who talks about building. That's the whole reframe. You must stop substituting the talking for the building. Identify the daily action. Do it every day. Go quiet about the dream until the building has produced something real. The rest takes care of itself over the years it takes in the way it has always taken. So here is what I want you to carry with you. Most people will never build the life they talk about. The dream you have been describing for years, the future you have been pointing at in conversations, most people in your situation will not build it. The talking will keep going. The building will not start. The years will pass. And the dream will quietly fade while the talking continues. You don't have to be one of those people. The fix isn't complicated. The fix is uncomfortable because it requires giving up the daily reward of talking about the thing. And it requires accepting that the actual building is mostly unglamorous and slow, but it is reachable, available, doable, starting today. I am telling you, the version of you who starts the daily building action today is going to be in a completely different place in 5 years than the version who keeps talking. Not by a little, by a lot. Because the math of daily action, sustained for years, is the math that produces all the lives the talkers only describe. You must pick one dream, just one. The one you've been talking about longest, the one you can describe in detail, the one you've been pointing at for years, that one. You must identify the daily building action that would actually move it forward, not the preparation, not the research. The actual daily building, 500 words, one call, 30 minutes, something specific, something doable today. And then do it today, right now if you can. Not after this is over, now. Every single day after this is another build day. The first day's action is the most important one, because it moves you from the talking category to the building category with one concrete act that the previous version of you never quite got around to. You got to do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next, for a year, for 2 years, for however long the dream actually takes to build. The years will pass anyway. The question is whether they pass with you talking or with you building. The choice happens every single day with whether you do the actual daily action. Today is the first day. The rest of the building, the years of it, follow from this one action that you do today, before you go back to talking yourself out of it. Listen, the gap between the talkers and the builders is small in any given moment and enormous over years. 1 day's worth of action is nothing. 1,000 days worth of action is everything. Start the first day. The rest is just the same thing repeated until the dream you've been describing for years finally exists in the actual world, instead of just in your conversations about it. You cannot reverse the years that have already gone to talking. You can still claim the years ahead. Spend them building. Every single day, the smallest action in the direction of the thing. The math handles the rest. I am telling you, this works. It has always worked. The people who built the lives you've been describing, every one of them did exactly this. You can do it too. The road is well traveled. The math is well established. The only variable is whether you start today or keep talking through another year.